for you. Instead of having the traditional tail wheel wire, it gives you the effect of having a flying partner. And it's available from Ski Dombrowski. It's called the Sleepy Stooge. Here's a nice picture of Louisiana Lightning in inverted flight when Craig Gunther was flying it. This is at the Edison meet in 1985. 86, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong picture. 1986, Edison. Here's a good example of a relatively exotic trim job. This is Louisiana Lightning. Built up flaps, built up elevators, foam wing core. Kind of an exotic paint job. A lot of striping, a lot of tape work, and this is what we're going to be showing on this video, the actual painting of the trim. Here's a good picture you may want to look at. This is Bill Rich had a head-on flew into the concrete, pulled out at -1 foot here, and this is what was left of his motor. We've always saved this. If Bill wins the Nats, we're going to present him with a blow-up of this photo. Yeah, Bill, I know, life is tough all over. There's what was left of Bill's plane. Johnsville, 86. Boy, there's a million funny stories connected to this plane. Mike flew this. This is his 86 plane. Small size LJ. You'll see how big the flaps are. This is an LJ. One of the things Mike did, when this plane crashed, he was going to wind up burning it or stepping on it or something. He crashed it, did some damage. I took it home and fixed it, of course, and I gave it to somebody who then flew it for about 3 years and got 3 good years of service out of it. You never throw them away, Mike. A nice picture of Russ Hunsberger in the days that he was building Jimmy type planes. They had just released him from prison here, and he still had his prison shirt on. 1986. Russ, you've come a long way, baby, believe me. Hate to look at these old pictures. Bill Suarez's jet, the bottom side of his Blue Angel replica jet. Kind of get the feel this photo should have been on the lettering job. The beginning or the end of the lettering video, the one previous to this. Yeah, nice photo of the cockpit detail. It was in the MiG. Believe it or not, we still sell copies of plans of this plane to people. I still have some plans to this. Hard to believe people are still building these. This is a 1983 photo. Just another look at the 900 sweeper and the MiG together here. And anyway, okay, we're pretty much ready. You should have your VCR tracked in. You should have your tracks tracked in, and your shirt tucked in, and all that stuff. So let's go start the part of this video that really means something. Let's get into the actual painting of the trim. Now, my method of painting the trim on an airplane, and let's just kind of make this real easy, because we're going to be dealing with this particular plane, and I'll just oversimplify this. We're going to have this trim be purple, and this whole front half of the plane be purple. And I'm just going to scratch that in. Of course, we have the lettering already done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask off this little piece of trim first, spray this piece of trim, give it a couple hours to dry, then cover over it, cover the whole back of the aeroplane, this whole back, which will then be painted yellow, and spray this. Now, because there's snow on the ground outside and it's really freezing cold, we're going to try to do virtually all of this in the shop under some pretty rough conditions. So it may not be a pretty paint job, but we're going to try to get it done today or tomorrow in the next couple of days. Now let's just talk about the another method of painting an airplane. Let's just pretend this is your stunt ship here. Another method, let's say we want this airplane to be white with a red stripe on the leading edge, is you can paint the whole airplane silver and then paint the whole airplane white and then mask off the leading edge where you intend to do it. But now when you want to paint this red, you have to mask off the whole plane. And I guarantee when you do that, there'll be spots that are just unbelievably hard to get around here and around the rudder, and it's just such a pain in the neck to do. This is an unbelievably hard way to do it. If you take the same paint job and you, before you do anything, lay out the leading edge and then use the tin foil or newspaper, just cover within 6 or 8 inches of the plane. You don't have to mask the whole plane off, depending on how complex the job is. You paint this, paint that, paint this, paint that, let it dry overnight. Now the only thing, when you come back to it, the only thing you have to do, you just have to mask over this area. Once you mask over this area, you can either hang the plane up by the lead outs or whatever, hold it, or get your finishing friend out, your finishing wheelbarrow or whatever. You just have to mask off such a small amount of area. In our case, we have to mask off the letters too. And now you can paint the whole plane. So I'm just trying to show you the logic that's involved in this. It's pretty basic, simple logic. This way, in the times that I've timed it, I can save almost a whole day by doing it this way. And use a lot less tape and certainly a lot less paint, and it'll weigh less all at the same time. So it's something worth considering, especially if you tend to build heavy airplanes. Now we're going to be dealing with the purple is going to be candy apple. Anytime you use candy apple paint, it's acrylic lacquer. Okay, you want to put the first coat on with the spray stripes going this way. Just pretend the trim wasn't there. Just go over it this way. Very light coat now. You missed on a coat, it's not going to cover. Second coat, you want to put the stripes on this way. And now you want to look at it and see if it needs a third coat. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. If it does need a third coat, and let's hope it doesn't, usually candy apple covers pretty good over a good silver base. You want to put the third coat on a 45-degree angle. Okay, trick number one. Trick number two is when you get in between, let's get a little paper up here, where the fuselage joins. This is where you always have a problem with any kind of paint, is between the fuselage and here. And from the side view, this would be anywhere there's a 90-degree angle, because as you're spraying, the paint is hitting here, bouncing down and ricocheting up, and then as you spray here, it bounces down. You spray here, it bounces up. In these corners, all along here is where it tends to turn into 80 grit sandpaper. It feels like Mount Vesuvius in there, and it's a pain to wet sand it out. Now that's one of the things we want to try to do, is we want to try to spray down this way when we do our coats going in this direction, and we want to avoid going into the corner here as much as possible. The other thing too is you don't want to get a tremendous amount of paint buildup at the fillets. You just want enough to cover. If you get a lot of paint in here, it always shrinks. When paint shrinks, it pulls up, and then you have, you know, fillets that boop, they look like, you know, can't say it on camera, but they really are a pain. Anybody figures out a way to make a plane without fillets, send me the plans. Now, last but not least, another consideration is when we have the we don't have the flaps on the plane, we can get in and spray the hinge lines and inside the fillets real nice. Spray in here real nice. So you don't get, if you've ever looked at some of the planes that probably just about make the front row but don't, the hinge line's always a gray instead of white, or they're a little sloppy in where the flap joins the fillet in there by the body. In here it's really not nice. We can get in there and buff that out before we ever even put the flap on. Now, one last thought. Whenever we paint trim, let's say this is the substrate and we have a coat of silver on it and it's all nice and flat, we've sanded it all beautifully flat. Now we lay on tape, and I'm exaggerating the height here, and when we paint this coat of trim, it tends to leave a little river. If we pull the tape away, the edge of the paint looks like this. If you exaggerated this, if you looked at this under a microscope, this is what it looks like. And lacquer tends to build up these corners more than dope. So we always gear our paint job around the idea that when we're finished, we're going to shave these corners off and keep after it, constantly shave them off. And then when we're finished with that, we're going to put on 2 coats of clear over the edges. In other words, we're just going to airbrush this area here in. So that now, if you were to look at that same thing under a microscope, what it would look like is you just have a little ridge, a little valley, and a little ridge. And then we're going to, on it, and when we actually do put the clear in, we're going to kind of bury this whole joint in clear so you can't feel it at all. But if you weren't going to do this, with acrylic lacquer you do get very, very abrupt edges. Dope is a little bit better, but dope doesn't cover as well, and there's other pluses and minuses to both sides. But burying these edges and how to do it, every time I've been to appearance judging, they rub their fingernail over the trim, and if they feel it catch a little bit on these high points, bingo, you're going back a row. So if you're shooting for the concourse, or if you're shooting to whatever the goal is here, impress the neighbors or whatever, this is one of the areas you're really going to have to pay strict attention to. Okay, and with that little dissertation in mind, we're going to go pull the airplane out and get back down to the shop and apply some paint to the airplane. Now on the previous tape we did get the lettering finished, and we do have the striping finished and the canopy finished. So on this next tape we're going to try to look up at the color chart here that we've laid out, and we see we need to make this little arrowhead in the back purple. So the first thing we're going to do is lay this out, mask it off with aluminum foil, just as we did in the previous tape. And we do have some little parts here we can run our test on. You know, we always like to test it on little parts. If you've been watching the previous videos, you know how we do that. If you haven't, you might want to check those out. Now, one of the things that I like to do at this point in time, being we have a really bad snowstorm out there and there's snow everywhere and ice, I'm going to try to do this right in the cellar. And I'm going to do it on a bit by bit, piece by piece operation. I'm not going to try to spray the whole plane at once. I'll try to do maybe just the top, let the cellar air out, and then maybe just do the bottom and let it air out. Whatever, I haven't worked that out yet, but one of the things we did really confirm, I tried a little experiment with this Frost King tape. I bought some of this tape because the glue was very weak and I thought it would work well on lettering and stuff. It was terrible. When I left it on the 24 hours and tried to take it off, it was absolutely turned into chewing gum, so you really don't want to do that. And we'll be sticking with our old traditional 3M body shop tape, bought from a body shop, fresh, not a week old, a month old. Go out and buy it, it's fresh, and use it. Now what I'll do is I'll do a little walk around the plane right now, look for any spots that need to be touched up. I did see a few when I was pulling off the tape. I think there's one down by the lettering here, right at the bottom of the 6. There's a little spot needs to be fixed. And do the little touch-ups while I can before I actually put more masking tape on top, so that I do have a complete layer of paint covering the whole plane. Alright, we're going to use Walt Prey's method on big areas of using aluminum foil. But what we do need to do right now is make sure this area is cleaned up. We'll do one area at a time. In fact, what I like to do, we've done this on the previous video, but this is another time because we're dealing with a new edge here, the green edge. I like to knock down the edge on everything. A credit card is good. One of the green Letraset templates is good. And because this is an unusual paint job, in the fact that the back of the airplane is all yellow and the front is purple, we're going to mask it out in a really, a normal type of paint job, you would be masking all the trim at once. In this case, we can only mask half of it at once. By the way, if anybody hasn't tried this aluminum foil thing, this is courtesy of Walt Prey, an absolute world-class master painter. Now at this point in time too, I had Karen wash the shirt today, give it a couple swipes on the old flannel shirt or t-shirt. Now it's not so sticky. Leave about 1/8 of an inch, the most, sticking out here. Now, obviously we try to catch that edge nice and neat, nice and clean, press it down. Now we'll work this out in pieces. Since this is the only little spot we're going to paint at this time, this won't be a major problem. We'll just mask this out, get it within 6 inches, and you won't have any overspray beyond 6 inches on this, I don't think. And if you practice a little bit, you'll get it won't take long, you'll get a little technique for laying that tape right down. What's nice about the tin foil, you can kind of bend it up around the rudder and it kind of stays right in place, unlike newspaper. Now you can see what I've done right here. When you want to know some of the shortcuts to masking off a plane, when you get into a corner like this, just go around in a radius. This keeps all your paper nice and tight. There's no seams, there's no air holes in it. Now we'll come by with some 1/8 inch striping tape and just fill in that corner. That's a little shortcut you might be able to use. Make the job go a little bit quicker. You shouldn't spend a lot of time masking these things off, and this is why I kind of like the tin foil here. It makes the job go faster. And hey, if you find out that this technique works real well for you, write Wolf Prey a letter and tell him. Appreciate that you sent this tip in. I certainly think this is one of the really quality tips that we've all, everybody is looking to try to take advantage of every tip you can, make this job as easy as possible. Not only as easy as possible, but get the job done as nicely as possible too. Now this piece we can just fold up and around and get a little piece of tape on this side. This kind of covers us right up in one shot here. Now you can see how I've just blocked this out. Now I can get right in there with the 1/8 inch tape and just take care of that. 1, 2, 3. Now just by putting 3 little strips in, I get the perfect curve, I get a nice edge. Not a problem at all. Now I'll go out and do this. And you just got to kind of figure ahead of time where you're going to have all these inside and outside curves. Any inside or outside curve that you can't bend 1 inch tape to, well, there's your choice. And it'll go relatively quickly for you. Okay, this side's ready to go. We're ready to spray this side, but we'll mask off all these little areas first, and then shoot them all at once. I think that'll be the easiest way. Now, take a little break in the action here for a minute. Mike Costello just showed up. This is going to be the ballerina canopy mold he's going to be using. Let's see, this is the ballerina plans. And of course we have ballerina plans now in stock for anybody that wants to see them. And you're going to put the ridges on with tape? Is that what you're going to do here?
Yeah, that's the plan at any rate.
Okay. Anybody, just only take a minute. Anybody wants to make a custom canopy, you can send these up to Midgley. Make the mold, cover it with about 3 layers of epoxy, sand it down with 600 wet. Make sure it's got a good coat of epoxy. That'll now be a canopy mold. And we can make ballerina canopies. Maybe you want a ballerina canopy on your next Magnum. I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to masking here, Costello. One of us has to get this done today. I've got both sides of the tail done now. Now we're going to get out the clear and a little brush and dress down the edges the same way we did the, all the stripes and whatever. Get a nice thin coat of clear up along the edge of the tape. What you want to do is just press down each edge. Get a nice thin coat of light coat just like on the previous video. Same exact thing. Not a big thick glocky coat. This will just seal up the edge so you get a decent tape edge when it comes up. Now because this is going to be candy apple purple, we need to have the finish inside this gray area perfect, or else you'll see every imperfection. So what I have to do, last but not least, if this finish was not perfect, if there was a scratch like we have by the numbers, or a piece missing, I would have to respray the silver very lightly Just put on the lightest coat of silver possible here. Well, you will see it after you, the candy apple, you put it out in the sun, you'll see all the little mistakes. And all it takes is one little coat. You don't need to go crazy putting 3 or 4 coats on. Now what we'll do, just for expediency's sake, is I'll flip the plane over and aluminum foil up the bottom too, so we can get it all done in one spray session and then get out of here for half an hour while it gases off. And kind of tuck in that tin foil. We flip it around. And up here we'll just put one piece right over the top, one full piece. Okay, we got one side of the bottom laid out here. We'll get the other side laid. Now see, you can wrap some of this back up and just tape it in place. Sometime if you're looking to save a little tin foil or whatever, you can kind of wrap this up. I'm not really looking to save tin foil. This stuff's only $1.50 a box, so who cares? And even if it was $10 a box, so what? Eat less pizza, that's all. Now what I had to do here, I didn't have enough purple, so I took what I had of the purple and added some deep blue to it, and this is like a real dark purple now. We want a little test here and see if I like this color. I don't know if you can see in the video exactly what color this is. It's a little bit darker than the original color I planned on. I wanted purple, but this is about half candy purple and half blue. And I mixed up a gallon of it. Really don't need a gallon. It's kind of overkill, but I really didn't want to get halfway through this and then run out. I set this up to spray with about 25 pounds. And the candy apple paint, you really have to thin it. There's a trick to thinning it. What you do is you thin it and thin it and thin it until when you spray it, you don't see any hairs coming out of the gun. And you'll see a point at which it sprays like cobwebby kind of hairs, and then you put another couple drops of thinner in it, and all of a sudden it sprays out dots. There's no cobwebs. And at that point, you're at just about the best mix for candy apple. Now I did a little spray pattern here just to show what the edge of the spray pattern should look like. When you get rid of the hairs, it sprays hairs out, cobwebs, whatever you want to call it, a little more, and you'll see it, instead of spraying hairs out, it sprays dots. As soon as it starts spraying dots, you're at the optimum spraying for candy apple. At least my experience, that's what it's been. You can see how nice and shiny that candy apple lays out too. The other consideration here is the candy apple really does cover like excellently. That's the right word. What a word. Really does have a good coverage. Now, believe it or not, somebody did borrow my can of purple, and it's gone. And I've looked all through the shop. And when we find out who has it, you're in big trouble. Just want to see if I can get a little better close-up on this. Maybe I can get a close-up so you can see the spray pattern. try this on the macro lens. The reason I'm trying to show this up close is anytime you use candy apple paint, getting the exact mixture right is very, very critical. You can get an idea, the coverage is unbelievable. And you can lay out a pretty nice coat here in one shot. When you have big areas to do, then you have to do that thing of going back and forth, back and forth. This is kind of drying up nice here. Not the worst color in the world anyway. And it's pizza time. Pizza time. And just to show you, I don't want to do this on video, show you how human even the Bhagwan is here. I grabbed an elevator and started testing this on an elevator, and then I realized the elevator has to be yellow. So to do this paint job. But anyway, just to show you that it does happen, and the reason it happens is I'm daydreaming about pizza and you know what goes on in this crazy place. Somebody walked away with my can of purple. Anyway, I'm going to re-silver this, and then this will be ready to shoot the yellow one. Midgley today, just today, sent me down the yellow pigment here for the yellow. Look at the nice letters and everything I get. Yellow pigment letters. With friends like this, who needs enemies, right? Unbelievable. Anyway, it's pizza time. Let's do some pizza and then we'll mix up the yellow. No, we got to do the rest of the purple. Well, blue purple, whatever color this is turning out to be. I just want to touch this guy up where we inadvertently started painting yellow. I don't know what was going through my mind. I was thinking of pizza, thinking of what a gorgeous wife I have, and all of a sudden I had a blue elevator. See what happens? Brain damage. Anyway, when you make a mistake, this is all there is to it. Fix it. Don't let it get you down. Tough it out. Now look at that pigment that Midgley sent. It looks real good. We'll run a little test with that. Take a look at this elevator later, let it dry up, and get on to the next part of this paint job. Yeah, you can see how nice and shiny that dried up. The candy apple acrylic is really a nice material to work with. Again, you really should wait 24 hours before you pull the tape off to get a nice clean edge. I just got done spraying the cowling here. The cowling looks pretty nice. Look around for any little bad spots you might have in it. Relatively nice finish. Drying up real nice. Okay, the next step is we want to try to, in the time that's available for the rest of the day, we want to try to outline the canopy. Mask off the parts of the ship that are going to be yellow and spray the rest of the purple blue. Now so far what's drying up on the purple blue looks relatively decent. One of the problems is I really don't have a lot of extra paint, so I'm going to be real careful not to just waste paint here. Get the minimum coat on everything. Now what I usually do, I lay out the outline of the part I want to cover with 1/8 inch tape, and then I'll go in with masking tape that's got the stickiness already taken off of it. In this case we might be able to make a little piece of tin foil or whatever, and we have to cover up the lettering. So first step is get the thing outlined, and then get yourself a little piece of tin foil. Again, this is not a big critical thing. You just need a piece to work with. Take the 3M tape. Make sure anytime you put this or any tape down, get the total stickiness down a little bit. Leave about 1/4 inch of tape sticking out. And then you actually put the tape, try to press it down only on the 1/8 inch tape. Try not to press it down on the paint at all, especially the metal flake. In that case, okay, now we can trim this back. Leave yourself a little material here. And since we know the other side's going to come down, we'll try to get that angle in right now too. See, this way you have the minimum amount of masking tape actually touching the paint. Get used to rubbing it on your shirt. The first time you don't do that, you're going to be pulling up more than a normal amount of tape. You know, you pull up 1 or 2 little pieces of tape now and then, it's not the end of the world. You can touch it up, but when you start pulling up giant chunks of the finish, it really can be frustrating, that's for sure. Okay, now, we have half of it done. Let's turn the ship around. Repeat the same thing on the other side. Trim some of this down. There's a little technique to doing this. You need a little practice. First couple times you do this, it'll be very time consuming, and then you'll say, oh geez, that was pretty easy. Again, just get the outline with 1/8 inch. If you try to leave out the step of using the 1/8 inch tape, you don't really get a nice crisp edge. That's one of the things you trade away. Now we can kind of try to bend this around, tuck this up under. You don't have to cut it, you can just tuck it up under. Tuck it up under. And that's the beauty of the tin foil, is you can just get it to kind of fit into certain areas that would be awkward. If you were using newspaper, this would be a problem. Newspaper, any kind of paper. Anytime you see a little hole like this, a little spot you want to fill in with tape, just fill it in. Now I'm just putting this on here to ensure that we don't have any little leaks. This is not touching paint, so I don't have to worry about rubbing it on shirt. You can use up scrap tape for this. You can use up used tape for this. Now I hope we can just skim through what the other steps of laying this out are. That's what would be involved in doing one step of masking off. We can use up some of that. And so having seen that, I think you can pretty much figure out we're going to do the same thing to the lettering, the same thing to this, and we're going to slice off the back of the body and leave that foil right back there. We won't even have to retape the back of the body, we'll just peel it back.
In the new 2-liter 800 bug gauge 100 countdown. Whiskey and 1911. I'm Mark's all weekend. 95.
Okay, we have all the lettering on the bottom taped off. Want to just press all the edges down a little bit, look for any spots we missed. Both sides look fine. Now, we masked off around the tip weight box a little bit too. We also have to do up here around the gear door boxes. Now, next thing is we want to tape off. We'll put an 1/8 inch outline around the whole, the perimeter of the trim, and then we're going to try to, same as we did in the back, match in a piece of either tin foil or cardboard paper, newspaper, anything, just to mask that off. And we'll be finished with the bottom. We'll flip it over and do the top. So I hope, again, from watching all these, really don't have to watch the whole thing. You just get the technique down, and you can interpolate it into whatever the paint style that you have, or that you're going to use. And what this will allow you to do, at least, is see one way, and this is certainly not the only way to do a trim job, see one way that is a proven way that can be made to work and can be made to bring home some concourse awards. If you find a better way, gee, share it with us. Call me up. Write me a letter, pass it on to the Pampa newsletter, pass it on to any newsletters. Stuff's no good if you keep it a secret. You got to share it. And let's hope that by sharing these techniques, we'll inspire more people to come forward and share some of their techniques, and eventually we'll all be able to build these beautiful planes. Be able to share the technology, share the information, keep the event going long before the time. In fact, let's be realistic about this. This event should have died 20 years ago. Other events have died. This one lived on, and I think one of the reasons it lived on is because people in this group are a family. They share things. They're not afraid to help one another. I don't know any other venture in life where people help each other or are willing to help as much as in this, and I've been involved in a lot of different ventures, believe me. Go to a motorcycle race and see how many people help you after you crash. See how many people write you a letter or a card when you're in the hospital. Check it out. It's not a fantasy island thing. That's a real thing. Special group of people in this event, that's for sure. And when somebody shares things, like Walt Prey has been sharing some of his technology, we all benefit, that's for sure. Okay, we're not going to do the rest of this on camera. We'll finish this up later. All that's involved here now is just redundantly repeating what we've already done. until we have all the things we don't want painted purple masked off. Now, if you notice, one neat little trick is the thickness of the lettering is exactly the thickness of a piece of masking tape, so you just go through and lay pieces of tape and there's very little cutting and trimming. You can keep that in mind when you lay out your next lettering job. Another good trick from the Bhagwan. Okay, we have the whole bottom done. Just going to flip this puppy over and get on the top. Just want to show pretty much every step of the way how this is going. So anybody wants to kind of duplicate this on their system, they can see that it's not that difficult. It's not some impossible thing to do this. Now I just figured out another nice little tip here. I mask down one edge, and if I press against the tape here, I can see the impression of the trim coming right through the tinfoil. I don't know if you can see that. You can see the lines of the trim. So now you can just go in with a razor and leave yourself about 1/8 of an inch of clearance and razor it right out in one piece. Hey, that's a nice little tip in itself. Just another reason that the tinfoil works a little bit better than the paper. I'm impressed. That worked well. And we're getting ready to spray. It won't be long before we're ready to spray. This is really neat with the impression of that trim on there. We can really just go right down with a pair of scissors, or you can even do it with a razor blade. See, this is the whole idea. When you try different things, you find these so-called little tricks, I guess is the right word, tips, tricks. And what happens is the more you do, the more tricks you find. And the more you share them, the more people are going to share tips and tricks with you. If you don't share them, nobody's going to go out of their way to share them with you. Anyway, that's a beauty. That's a great little tip. That in itself is worth the price of the video. Boy, is that nice. Ha! I'm impressed. That's one that should be in Stunt News. Should be somewhere anyway. And you just go right around. I can't imagine that it could get much easier than this. And come on out there, some of you guys have some cool tricks, some cool tips, or whatever. Let's get with sharing them, baby. This deal with the aluminum foil from Will Prey is really worth the price of admission. No, I really am impressed with that thing. That really is speeding up the... in fact, we're going to get this whole deal done in one day. This is amazing. Combination of the phone not ringing, a snowy day outside, and oh my God. Well, we get this sprayed. We're going to have to spray it in the shop here, but we definitely want to get it done today. Now we get the outside arrow done, and we're pretty much ready to get spraying. Okay, now one of the important things I have to do right now is take the all the little pieces, the flaps and edges and everything, and make sure we have it either darker, or we haven't made it darker or lighter. In this case it looks pretty good. Now a couple of things, this color covered unbelievably good. I kind of like it. It's a unique one-of-a-kind color. It's half candy apple purple and half blue. Definitely looks nice. But now I want to check the flaps that they match, the cowling, make sure I haven't made anything either darker or lighter. That'll be the next step. Okay, again, we're just checking to make sure we have the same color. And if you don't, you take the lighter part and just put a thin coat, put a little extra thinner in the candy apple and put an extra coat on. Oh, it's still snowing outside. Look at that snow coming down. Anyway, we did get our coat on today. Kind of satisfied with the color. I don't know, maybe this is going to grow on me a little bit. I don't know. We'll check it out. Anyway, tomorrow's job is we're going to run our little test on the yellow, formulate up the exact shade of yellow that we want, and we do have the stuff that the fancy pigment that's originally sent down. We're going to try to work with that. And first thing tomorrow morning is we want to get all the tape off the plane. Let it sit here overnight by the heating vent. Alright, just a minute to explain what's going on here. We're going to let this dry overnight, of course, and we do have about an hour left. So what we're going to try to do is mix up the color yellow that we like to have and run a little test so in the morning we can see what color it is. Now this is the color yellow that I used last year. I basically made this by taking clear acrylic lacquer, and this is raw pigment. This is acrylic mixing lacquer, high strength yellow 45 2L for mixing and tinting only. Now this is very expensive material. I've spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on this tinting stuff so that I could make my own paint. Now this is the ingredient Midgley sent down, and this is why I think this is one of the colors he used last year. It's fluorescent, and so what I'm going to do basically is play mix and match here until I get something that looks good against my color that started out to be raw purple and it turned out to be blue purple. Another thing I want to mention, this is a good idea. Now I've marked the jar, 93 Cardinal purple blue mix, and you can see how much. Let's look up at a light here if we can. This is how much paint it's taken to paint the plane. A 4-ounce cup and about 1 ounce from the second cup. About 5 liquid ounces of acrylic lacquer will paint a plane. So you don't really need a gallon. The reason for making up a gallon here, I mean, it was an obvious reason, is I may want to paint another plane this color, or I may want to paint Midgley this color, I don't know. But while this is drying, I'm going to run up, I have a part of the plane over here, somewhere in my box of junk over here. What I did, I saved the scoop from last year's plane. So this will give me a little bit of an indication of what the colors look like. These are the colors I used last year. I cut the scoop off when I retrofitted the VMAX, and now I can use this to get a little feel for what my colors are going to look like. Again, this is like an artist using a palette. I have the drawing, I can refer to that, but now I have the plane too. I can use the plane. Now, I just come in from outside with a little test piece. Now, the object of running a little test like this, now I can hold this next, well, let me show you what I did. I tested this on a scoop just to see if I was going to get the color yellow I wanted relative to last year's paint. And then I can take it, well, I can't show it on the camera, I have to walk over to the plane. I can do a color match and see that I like the two colors together, and if not, I can tone it up or tone it down with this little 3288 sunspot. And what I really wanted to make sure of was that this color was going to go right over silver. This goes right over silver like iron. When you see this being sprayed on tomorrow, this goes over better than the blue. So I think we've accomplished what we want. I mixed up a quart of this, so this will be enough maybe for 2 or 3 planes before I have to go out and buy some more anyway. This looks like it's going to be a nice combination. But again, the mentality we use is run a little test the night before. Don't just go out and paint the plane. Maybe you won't like the color. Now, because we changed the color purple, I didn't know if I was going to like this. And I kind of liked last year's combination of purple and yellow. This is a much brighter yellow. Well, it's a lighter yellow and a brighter yellow. Probably stand out a little better in the air. This was more like a school bus yellow. And so now I can see what that color is going to be dry. This color is dry. I can hold the cowling and the rudder together. I'll hold this until it dries. And tomorrow I'll take all the masking tape off the plane, reverse the masking tape, and then paint the yellow. And hopefully when I'm finished taking all this apart, the result will be worth all this extra little effort. That's why you always do the little parts first. Okay, now we'll let the elevators dry overnight, of course, and then we'll see. You know, it's unbelievable how good this yellow covers. That's the one thing I'm really impressed with, was the coverage, and we'll try to get some of the spraying on the tape tomorrow. Just unbelievable how well it covered, even better than the pigmented paint that I was using last year on this guy. Anyway, he's drying up here. There's just a little look at what what a garbage can we filled up today. This was a long, hard day. Anytime you can get a whole plane painted, except for actually for the back of this, you've put in your time, you've paid your dues, and we have paid the dues today. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time now. Maybe I can pull off the tin foil. I don't want to pull off the tape edges. Maybe I can pull off the tin foil and stuff, just so this can sit on a table overnight. It was a hard day's work. This is a tough day. And by the way, just so you know, we have the 2 guns sitting here. One is sitting here with the yellow in it and one with the blue, in case we want to touch up or do some other work, or we're going to have to save some, you know, some of this paint. We're going to have to make wheel pants and grass gear and who knows what. What I did in a little bit of time that was left, pulled off some of the masking tape, not the thin striping tape, just pulled off the tin foil in the back and peeled a wide tape off here, but not the edge. So we still have an edge on all this. Now, from having seen this color right now with the silver and gold, this color silver and gold kind of look nice together. But again, we want to leave the last little bit of tape. Want to leave on there 24 hours before we pull it off, the last little stripe. Otherwise you're not going to get a relatively nice tape edge. And sometimes all you really need to see is what these things look like in certain stages of development. And you can figure the rest out for yourself. Now, a couple of things that are going to have to be done. Some of this tape did come up and we didn't want it to come up the edge here, but that's not a big deal. But one of the things that you're always going to have little spots you have to touch up. I'm looking for one right here. There will be some. There's a couple little spots on the lettering. We kind of buried that little thing under the 6, that little bad spot. There's a couple of spots, I think they're both on the bottom, where the gold lettering needs 2 little touch-ups. We're going to try to show all the little ways of touching this up on camera if we can. And again, if there's something I left off of the tape, it's not intentional, just, you know, give me a call, drop me a line. Try to help you out with it. Now this morning what I'm going to do, this has been drying overnight now, and I want to pick up all the tape around the lettering, all the tape that borders the purple, all the tape around the canopy, and all the tape over here. Now the idea of that is this tape's been sitting on 24 hours, it should pull up and we'll get a nice clean edge, and it looks pretty good right now. I haven't tried to pull any off, but we'll certainly find out right away, and we'll do it up close. And then what we're going to have to do is back mask, so all of the purple is covered, and we can spray this the yellow and this the yellow that we mixed up yesterday. Now a couple of tricks here. Remember the old thing of leaving the tape on 24 hours but no longer. And we'll pull this tape back. Let's get an idea now of what kind of an edge we're going to get here. And we'll probably do exactly the same thing here. We'll take out the credit card, kill this edge off just like we did on the video before. Now from this point on, we want to really be real careful. We don't want to have to do any more touch-up than normal. What I want to do now, I want to get out the old credit card and see what kind of an edge we have here. Now I do this on an ongoing basis. I don't wait till the end of the job to do it. Every time I do paint, try to kill off that edge. And you'll see when we actually get down to spraying the clear, how you can save an awful lot of weight by having these edges broken down ahead of time. You really will need much less paint to get them nice and smooth. And pull the tape back nice and straight and nice and slow. The slower and straighter, the neater you'll get an edge. Whenever you do lacquer, you'll get that nice neat edge. Now I just want to mention one of the, this would probably be a good point to do it. One of the biggest mistakes you can make right now is to touch this with any kind of sandpaper. If you sand this gold, you ruin the effect. You'll cut the sparkle right out of it. If you happen to drop down into the little trough and the sandpaper, even if it's 1200, touches that silver, it's gone. When you have candy apple, you cannot sand raw candy apple, period, ever, for any reason. What happens, you put microscopic sanding scratches in it, and when you hit this with thinner, you'll make all little awful, terrible looking things. What you have to do is, using the card, get as much of this down as you can. Knock off every possible edge that you can, and be patient. You can see how long it's taken me just to do one or two of these letters. Spend your time, shave it. We're going to have to, before you ever even get near this with sandpaper, and when you see the method we put the clear on with, we're going to be putting the clear method of 1/3, 2/3. 1/3 of that clear is going to be going right over the letters and right over these stripes. And then you can sand that clear, but you cannot sand silver and expect to have a perfection, perfect paint job, whatever you want to call it. You can't have anything. Right now, you've got to just discipline yourself to sit here patiently with the card, and then later on with the brush and touch up all the spots. Now you can see right off the bat, one spot we have to touch up right here. We have to touch up the silver right here. So, but we'll get them all. We'll do all the letters, and then we'll get to the point where we'll do all the touch up in one step. Patience. Right now, the whole trick is patience. Okay, this panel here is finished as far as scraping it down and pulling off the tape. What we're going to do is spin the plane around and get busy pulling off the tape, and we work one panel at a time. This one still has to be. Okay, we have both sides of the lettering on the top done. All the tape is removed from the whole top of the ship, and next step we're going to flip it over and start working on the bottom. Same thing, card it off, wipe it with a paper towel, get it nice and clean. Now what you'll find when you kind of, let's say, sand it with a paper towel, you get lint all over it and it tends to be staticky to new paint. So a little bit of M600 usually cleans that right up and takes care of that as a potential problem. Okay, time to flip it over and we'll start working on the bottom. Okay, we got the one side done on the bottom. In fact, we're closing in. This is the last panel. Once we finish this panel, we'll get the tape off of here. We'll be all set, and we'll start masking it off for the yellow. Okay, all the tape is off the plane. I wiped the whole plane down with M600 now, just to get any little residue of tape or any little thing that's needs to be cleaned up. And I'm about ready. We'll get out the tin foil and the tape and we'll start masking off so we can shoot the yellow today. Now just to show you a little thing, here's a little corner that's missing, this little corner. Now what I did, I took some microflakes and a little bit of clear and just mix it up. You can see what this looks like. It's in a coffee lid. I just mixed it up with the brush. By the way, just so you know, if you're doing small areas, say if you're doing things up to 1/4 of an inch, you can brush on the microflake. You don't have to spray it on. You don't get any benefit from spraying it. But if you do big areas, it will save you some time. Anyway, just a little touch up. We're going to ink line around all these edges, but I want you to understand that this is an ongoing thing. Every time we go around a plane, we touch up. There's a couple little spots up by the canopy there I wanted to touch up. And usually there'll be a couple little spots in the silver. Now I remember seeing a couple. I don't know exactly where they are. Oh, they're out on the other wing. There's a couple little spots in the silver I need to touch up. I'm going to let that dry before I put the foil on the plane. But just be aware, if you do this on an ongoing basis, every time you pull a tape off, do a little bit of you know, the jar with the brush sitting right in it, and you'll be way ahead of the game when it comes time to shoot the clear. Do a little ongoing touch-up. Now basically going to use the same method we used previously. We're going to outline things with 1/8 inch tape. Then take, this is the 3M tape, attach it to the foil with about 1/4 of an inch hanging over, and attach that right onto the 1/8 inch tape. So it's kind of a redundant repeat thing of what we did on the other side. We'll just do a little outline of it. We won't go do the whole thing on video, of course. Okay. Remember, all we want to do is leave exposed the parts of the plane that are going to be yellow. They're silver now, so it should be relatively easy to do. Because we're only taping the inside too, all of the outside edges of the tape don't have to be trimmed, so this should go relatively quickly. And you find out when you work with tape like this quite a bit, you're going to develop a little technique. You're going to be able to really knock these things out without a lot of wasted time and effort. Seems like the first one you do will take a lot of time, but from that point on, it'll really go nice and fast. And what the goal of this whole thing is if you've never done a full finish on a plane or an intricate finish, you should have a fighting chance at the end of watching this set of videos, a real good fighting chance. You better have a lot better than a fighting chance. You have a real good chance of cranking out a plane that get you right up in the front row. But the key here is patience, and the key here is not trying to rush the job. At this point in time, everybody starts getting itchy to rush the job, including myself. Just take your time. Now see, you don't have to bother trimming these outside edges of the tape. We're just gonna leave them hanging off and get the tape on the tin foil butted right up against it. Save yourself a little time. You can get this whole thing done in maybe an hour or so. Now I just wanted to show that these parts here that are just this dimension here, I've just taken the tape and rubbed it on a table several times so it isn't sticky. This will hold us just to get through, and of course I'll do the same thing on this side. There's no point in just going over and over this. You have the idea, you do it with tin foil, we'll flip it over, do the other side, and come back to this when we're ready to start painting. Well, we're about ready to test out the spray. We ran a little test on the small parts yesterday, so I anticipate. Tricks we found is we use the shop vac to suck out some of the air while we're spraying and blow it up the door. It kind of lets you spray indoors a little bit better. You can actually use your shop vac for an air pump, and that's what we're doing right now. Plus we have the little fan there too. still snowing outside. Anyway, we did get this guy sprayed, and we're going to wait about a half-hour and try to pull off all the tinfoil. Now, I just want to show that we had to spray inside, and this is the kind of weather we have here. It's raining, it's snowing, it's cold, it's awful, and we still get the job done. It's really an excellent trick for clearing out the air in the shop. That is one good trick. In 15 minutes we have all the spray dust out of here, and you can walk around in here again. Okay, now what I'm doing very slowly, I have all my little jaws open here again, going around in any little spots I see, and there's 20 or 30 little spots that could be touched up. Get a little dot of touch-up paint on them, get them squared away. I like to do this on an ongoing basis. I don't like to wait until the plane is all done and then walk around. One by one I can touch these up as they, you know, as I see them. I work one panel at a time. You see a little strip of orange, strip of this, just work on it as you can. Now, while I have the touch-up brushes out, I like to continue the stripes on down into the little doors where the doors sit inside the foam wing. And of course, I do the same thing up here as I try to continue the stripes. Can't even get in there with the macro lens. Try to paint the stripes down in so when you seal this up it has a nice smooth appearance. Now, I did all the touch-up on the bottom. I'm going to flip it over and try to get some more touch-up on the top. And finish out this day just by getting all the little touch-ups done so that we're in real good shape tomorrow when we start making the bird. We're going to do the bird's head. Hopefully next we'll make the pattern and get ready to do the bird's head. I just did a little sketching tonight. I do my little sketching for the Cardinal head here. This is the original one. This was just an ink outline. I saved that. Anyway, Nikita Khrushchev was just on the phone. Anyway, make up these little, this is a sketch. And you know, it's, what can I say? A sketch. Then what I try to do is fit it in here in such a way that, I'm just trying to show what I want. I want to see this curve somehow come together. I want it to be almost up against the body so I can position it. So I want to fill that area. And now, you know, one of the next steps, I'm going to have to cut the little pieces out like a jigsaw here and paint it on. But he's kind of a mean-looking cardinal, isn't he? Each one of these cardinals is different too. If you go back and look in a magazine at the 3 or 4 that I've painted, everyone's a little different. They all have a little personality. But anyway, tomorrow that'll be one of the things we get doing. Yesterday we finished up touching up all the little spots on here, and I just want to look at this right now. Today we're going to try to get that little bird's head painted. But this is a good time. I want to mention a few other things. Now, one of the things yesterday I did at the end of the workday, I ran down to the art supply store and bought some fresh gold electrosets that I want to try to use. And I had a little bit of a shock. The price of the electrosets is now $14 a sheet. And so what I did, I went through my old box, and anybody, this is my suggestion now, is if you're going to use electrosets, and pretty much everybody uses electrosets, what you want to do is, when you finish up a sheet, get yourself a shoe box, or in this case it's an IBM card box, and just save the ones you don't use. Here's a sheet from a couple of years ago, I guess. And you can see what we've done is, some letters are missing from whatever this is from, and again, I don't even remember. But now I still have the ones, you know, that I didn't use. So you don't want to use a sheet and then just throw away what you didn't use. You want to kind of save it. And from year to year, what will happen is you'll build up a box of these letter sets, and with the price $14 a sheet, there's probably $1,000 worth of stuff in this box. Now, Tom Lay's letter sets, by the way, are still $9.95. I'm happy to hear that. There's a couple of problems with letter sets, and I want to go over these real quick. These are Tom Lay letter sets. Tom Lay letter sets, a couple of good things about them. You don't have to lay out the lettering, the little no steps and controls and all this stuff. You can kind of dress up a plane in one day, bing, and it's done. If you decide you're going to do it this way with one letter at a time deals, you can spend 100 hours decorating a plane. It's unbelievable how long it takes. Anyway, I suggest, especially if you're a newcomer, you get a couple of sheets of these, the Tom Lay deals, and just get used to working with them. Now, there's a thing with letter sets. Letter sets are made in England. Real letter sets are made in England. They are the only product that I know of that when you spray dope on top of it, and you will be spraying either dope or acrylic or epoxy on top of it, it's the only product that doesn't melt. If you put too much thinner in the paint, you will melt even letter sets. But if you use press type or some of the other office less expensive letter sets, as soon as you put paint on them, they melt and they turn to goop, at which time you've just ruined the model and you have a lot of sanding to do. So my suggestion is, number one, try to use Tom Lay letter sets. Number two, use real letter sets. And the last choice, if you're going to try some bogus brand, you better put very little thinner in the first couple of coats of clear. Another trick with letter sets is called pre-releasing. In other words, you take this sheet and you take the wax paper that comes with it and you go over, say, a cardboard box or a, well, I don't know what, a table, and you just rub it enough that the letter almost comes off and you see it starting to turn white. Then you transfer it to the place it's going to go on a plane and burnish it on, rub it on. Now, if you don't pre-release, if you just take this sheet, put it on the plane and start grinding away, you'll have letter dents. There'll be little rivers and valleys and Grand Canyons and garbage can covers all over the plane. The plane will look terrible. You don't want to do anything but pre-releasing. Another thing too, it pays, if you're going to do letter sets, turn the heat in the house up to 80 degrees. Letter sets seem to go on a lot easier when they're warm than when they're cold. I'm sitting in a coal cellar now. It's 60 degrees in here right now. And I know these will be hard to release, so I'm going to get the heat up to about 80 before I start releasing them. Another thing, the day before you release the letter sets, get the box open and get the box warm. So you're dealing with warm material. They seem to stick a lot better when they're warm. Again, all these are little tips that'll help you figure out, get the most out of what you're doing here. Now I want to show a couple of other things here. I hope I have it in this box. I have a whole bunch of different tools for putting letter sets on. Oh, here's my other bird. Look at this, I saved all the birds. The shield, save the shields. Save everything. Hey, it's the name of the game. But anyway, if you have a box, oh, here it is right here. This is one type of tool. It looks like a little spoon, and I'll show this on the macro lens. When you want to put letter sets on, you pre-release and just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There's another tool here. Let's see if we have it handy. It's got the, here it is. It's got a Teflon end, like an end. I found one of the best things is a 1/4-inch dowel. If you sharpen it like a pencil and burnish it all off with 600 sandpaper, seems to work just as good. And these tools can be expensive. I think these are $6 or $8 a piece. So let me show what these tools look like up on a macro lens. Again, these are the professional tools for putting letter sets on. These are $6, $8, whatever. And this is another tool that has a variable ball. Now there's a ball on the end and you can adjust the pressure. See, it's on 2, 3, 4, 5. But believe me, all these tools, these work not a whole lot better than a 1/4-inch dowel. That's shaped like a pencil. At the end, I haven't seen any reason you should run out and spend $8 on this unless you really want to have, you know, the illusion that you're a tremendous big artist or something. But anyway, these tools do work well. If you feel you can afford them, they're a good investment. But the best investment of all is to take old Letrasets and practice until you can pre-release them and get them to go on a plane without putting dents in a plane. The worst thing in the world is to have Letra dents, the dents that go on from not pre-releasing properly. And if it sounds like I'm overemphasizing that, I'm not. Wait till you do your first plane and you ruin it by putting dents in it. You know, every plane you have, whether you have only 1 or 2 Letrasets, or if you do a Russ Hunsberger job and you put 8,000 on, you know, it doesn't matter. You really would like to get the technique down pat, and there's no reason. It's not hard to do. It's fun to do. And another thing too, you know, while we're talking about this, the idea of using Letrasets, and let's see what this box looks like here if I can do this. I mean, I have got, this is 30 years of Letraset here. I've got every brand ever made, all kinds of oddball sizes and shapes, and you know, big ones, little ones, fat ones, square ones Midgley had specially made, ones I used there, all Letrasets, Letratones, all kinds of stuff. The idea is, if you're in doubt about Letrasets and you don't know how many to put on, 1 not enough is better than 1 too many. That's my general rule. If you're going to do Letrasets, 1 not enough is better than 1 too many. Now I'm up against that Vision picture and show how many Letrasets and boxes. This thing looked like a piece of drafting paper. This I thought was too many. It just got ridiculous after a while. There's just too many Letrasets on it. It started to look hideous. This is too many. They're all over the body. They're all over everything here. This is a photograph that's on the wall. You know, and again, the general rule is, if you don't know how many to put on, 1 not enough is better than 1 too many. Now somewhere down the road on the next tape or wherever, we're going to get into the ink lining, all the tips with ink. I went out yesterday and bought about $100 worth of ink and pens and things to do the ink lines. I'll try to get into that in detail, but for the rest part of this video, I would like to concentrate on the Letrasets. Letrasets are an important part of, you know, of having a nice ship. And if you get the techniques down, you know, to where you're happy with them, I think you're going to be very satisfied with the result. Keep in mind, Letrasets should be fresh. If they're over a year old, they might or might not stick. That is always a problem. And you always get good value from doing the Tom Lay jobs, because they're always fresh and they sell so fast, you don't wind up getting stuff that's 2 years old. So with that in mind, we'll get into doing the bird. Now, as I said, this is just a little hand sketch here. There's nothing fancy about this. You can do, you know, if the name of your plane is the, you know, whatever, you can make up a little emblem, a little insignia. Now, I've saved these for years and years, the little different ones I had. These were on the original. And I saved a little shield. I always put a little shield with special thanks to Big Jim Greenaway, who's, you know, probably responsible for most of the good things that happen around here. What I'll do with this now is outline it with 1/8" tape, and pretty much just piece by piece, just like you would do a jigsaw puzzle, get it into position and mask it off and spray 1 piece at a time. Not a very difficult thing to do if you do it, you know, in a way that, you know, like you would do a little paint by number set almost. But we'll try to do this on camera and show, you know, this just adds a little touch of, you know, a touch of a personality to the plane anyway. Step 1 is I cut a few little holes in here so I can position this, and I can move I want this curve here to kind of marry up to the curve of the trim. I don't want to have this, and I want him pointing down so that I get the angle here that I want, and then I can carry his little peak of his fluffed up hair up in the air like that. Okay, and then I really want it to end a little shorter than this, so I can kind of make a little adjustment here. Now you can see what I've pretty much done is outline this with 1/8" tape just to get the outline. Now what I'm going to do is pull him off, pull that little stencil off, and you can see how that kind of gives me the outline. And now I'll cut this up into pieces like a little jigsaw, and I guess, well, we'll do the red first. It doesn't matter. We'll just outline the red, mask it off with aluminum foil, and spray the red. And sometimes if you just get the idea of how to do these things, you can really, you know, be creative on your own and figure out some other cool things. You know, Steve Woolley had a little a snake for his Cobra. That was kind of cool. Now Dietrich, he you know, made that even a little bit neater than Wooly had it. He expounded it into you know, his own little personality. Now you can see this is what I need. I need the piece that's red because I'm going to reverse. Now remember, I showed these techniques of how to back mask. This is going to be like a little jigsaw puzzle. We're just going to keep masking and reversing and spraying. What I did one year, and it was a mistake, I tried to brush this on, and it just built up too much paint. I wasn't happy with it. So I'm going to airbrush each one I airbrush. I'm going to put it on with the normal spray gun. And now I'll just mask this out, and then put the foil around it. And you can pretty much figure out any way to do this. Now, in one of the future videos, we're going to show that. I don't want to show it on this. It's going to get too complicated. The rubber cement method. And this would be a good candidate for the rubber cement method. And we could try that on a future video. We'll do the whole bird's head with the rubber cement. That's a good way to do it. But for now, let's try doing this with the tape, since that's the way we've been doing this whole plane. Now you can pretty much figure out that that's going to be the red part of the bird's head right there. Not that difficult to do. I hope this encourages some people to give this stuff a try. Now, while we're going to have this part of the ship masked off, it might be real handy, and we definitely will do it, is we'll mask off our shield on the other side. We want to have that balanced look. You wouldn't want to have, at least I wouldn't, is have some kind of an insignia, emblem, trademark here, and then nothing here. So I want to kind of balance it off. So again, I have that shield up there, and I'll mask that off. While I'm going to mask the plane off and be waiting for things to dry. Now I'm trying to do time management here. I'm trying to do, while this red is drying, I want to be doing some of my letrosets or some of my inking or something. And, you know, I don't want to get to the point where I spray this red and then, oh, I'm done for the day. Okay, now with that masked off, I want to go over to the other wing and I want to mask off the shield. And this way I can spray two things at once. Even though they're different colors, I'll have the basic mask on a plane. I can shoot the two at, you know, at the same time. I'll shoot the red covering up the white, and then shoot the white covering up the red with a cloth or whatever. Okay, now we're going to repeat the same procedure. We'll do it off camera and outline it, you know, do all the tin foil around it, and we'll be all set in one stroke of the pen. Okay, we're about ready to shoot the paint here, so we'll mix up the red. Now I just happen to have a little bit left over from last year's bird. Otherwise I'd have to go out and buy a pint. The Cardinal bright red. So I'll get ready, mix that up and get it in the gun. Now we're going to change the paint in the gun to put the white in and do the shield. Notice I didn't get any on the shield, so I don't have any reason to think I'm going to overspray into the... I try to leave that tin foil like a little mountain ridge in between to kind of protect it, and it seems to have worked okay. Now you see what I do? I put the first coat on relatively dry, so it seals the tape edges up without leaking underneath. And then open it up a little bit on each progressive pass. Sometimes you need 3 passes, sometimes 4. Now you can see we didn't have any problem with bleeding over into the red or red into the white. Kind of a nice, neat job. All right, now what I'm going to do, I want the shields on the bottom, of course, so I'm going to flip the plane over and let this dry about 10 minutes and mask it off and shoot the shields on the bottom. Okay, now of course we'll just tin foil these down, seal the edges of the tape with clear, and paint these white. Again, the thing we're looking for most of all is that balanced look, where you do a wing over and one side of the plane isn't bland and the other side has all kinds of trim. I never personally cared for that. I like everything to look kind of symmetrical and traditional, and so if you put something on the top, it should be on the bottom. Now, needless to say, there's extra white pigment in this paint, or you would need 100 coats to cover purple. Extra white pigment, always a good idea. When you don't use the white pigment, you wind up with try to cover purple with white without pigment. That's how it should cover when you have it mixed right. Anybody not using the white pigment, you're just making yourself a lot of work and adding a lot of weight. Okay, now we're going to back mask this part of the bird's head here. Try to get the next part of the bird's head done. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is mask off his beak here. Now I want to show a nice little trick for making them red. We only want to expose this little area that's going to be yellow. So what we can do is lay the tin foil over it and now press it down. And it makes an exact impression of what we want to mask off. So now if we just cut beyond it about 1/8 of an inch, we'll only have a little bit of tape touching. It'll make for a real nice job. Real quick too. You can see how the foil actually leaves an impression of where the tape is. So now we just go out and razor this out just a little bit beyond that, and we're home free all. We've got that all covered in one sheet of tin foil, and we can just hit it with the yellow paint. Another color's on, and then we'll get on to the black. This really makes the job of masking, speeds it right along anyway. You don't wind up spending all day masking. Now I just happen to have the yellow still in the gun, but what I'm going to do is add a little bit of white to the yellow. A little bit that's still left in the gun, because I don't want this to look like it's that I just sprayed the trim color. I want it to be a little bit different in color. So I'll just make it a little bit lighter yellow. And I'll get another shade into the airplane. The more shades I can get into it, I think the nicer it's going to look. And it's just a little bit lighter yellow. I think it'll make a nice contrast between the yellow trim when it dries. I mixed that about half white and half yellow, and a lot of extra pigment. Now, masking off the edge of the canopy, I want to fog in some black on the edge of the canopy. While I have the black in the gun to do the bird's face, I want to black that in. So while I have the paint in the gun, I can get two jobs done at once here. Okay, we just have this back mast. I changed the black into the gun, and we can put the edge on the canopy. It gives it a little three-dimensional look. Okay, now the best way I know of to get this kind of a fogging effect, you see what I did? I started the paint down here, and then I can see the spread. If you have, let's do this a little bit better way. If you have this adjustment on the gun, turn it down all the way, clockwise all the way. That gives you the narrowest band of paint. Now, start out off of the object and then just on your way pass up, up, up just a little bit each time. And you'll eventually find a spot where it just puts an edge on there. Don't start right on the area you want to do. Let's see if we can get this one. It's important if you want to do fogging effects. Okay, let's see if we got. I'm starting out on a tin foil. Now I'll just work up maybe 1/8 of an inch at a time. What that does, it gives it a nice three-dimensional effect. When that's dry, that'll look very three-dimensional. You look at the yellow plane from last year, had a real nice canopy. It was fogged in with 3 different colors. And I always like that three-dimensional look. Now we're going to get over to the bird here, hope that he's dry, and we're kind of rushing this through. Being very careful to take all the stickiness out of the tape. We're going to back mask all the black except for the bird's eye. We already have the black in the gun for the canopy. Try to shoot that, and while that's drying we'll do today's male. Now we use the same method to make up a little mat here, tin foil mat with the exact shape cut in it. Okay. Well, the only piece left to do is his eye, and we're going to have to let that dry for a while. So while we're letting it dry, we're going to start doing some of the other little detail work on the plane, some of the little letrosets and things that we want to do. This is just waiting for paint to dry time. Normally, if you had all the time in the world, you would do this all in one step, but we'll get a little head start on the letrosets here while we're waiting for this black to dry. Now here's a few suggestions. At this point in time, the only thing left to paint, actually paint, the only other tape that's going to touch the plane is the Cardinal's eye. And we're finished with the taping. We've done some of the touching up. This is a good time to take the Sikkens M600, and this is the equivalent thing of Prepsol, by the way, if you haven't been following the videos. and wipe the whole plane down wherever you're going to get letrosets or ink lines. Any place you think you're going to want letrosets or ink lines, get the plane scrubbed down real good with this degreasing agent, I guess is the right word. It gets rid of any little tape residue that's left. It gets rid of all the little sticky stuff from your fingertips and whatnot. Then a next step, if you're going to do ink lines, we're not going to do ink lines right now, but when you're going to do ink lines, a couple of tricks if you find the ink not sticking well or beading up, is even after M600 is on, sometimes the ink won't stick because the lacquer has a shiny surface, especially acrylic. One of the tricks is take some talcum powder and just scrub the plane like you were scrubbing it with Brillo with talcum powder in the area you want to do an ink line. The ink won't hurt, the talcum powder that stays on there even after you wipe it off won't hurt at all, and you'll get a much nicer ink line. But for now we want to start on just laying out the letrosets that we have in a box by groups and see which ones we want to use here to do this job. Now another thought, as long as we're talking about ink, at this point in time now there's a big decision. You look around the plane and you see, gee, are there any little dings, dongs, mistakes? Is it unbalanced? What do I want to do with these letrosets? You just don't want to paste them on like postage stamps all over the place. What we're trying to do is enhance the look of the aeroplane. Any little mistake spot, a bad spot that we have, we can try to cover it up, try to disguise the fact there's a little ding there with a letroset, and then just bury it in clear. But you know, you just don't want to randomly just throw these all over the plane like they're you know, like you're putting decorations on a candy cake or a Harley Davidson or something. What you want to do is have some kind of a little plan in your mind of what this should look like. Typically what I've tried to do is get a lot of them up on the nose. That's a spot that isn't too busy on this plane, and I can't use black letrosets on this, of course. I have to get gold or white or whatever. I like to have my wife's name under the cockpit all the time, so if it crashes like it did last year, I can blame her and make her take me out to dinner. A few nose steps in the back, a few lines to enhance the way the trim is on, and not just random lines all over the place. And again, if you have to practice, get out those little sheets from Busso and draw a couple of lines on them and come up with a little scheme, or get out the photo album or get out the windy videos and look at how some of the other people have handled the ink line thing. And certainly the golden rule is if you don't know how many to put on, one not enough is better than one too many. And now what I do, I have that box, of course, with the letrosets. I try to lay it out in such a way. I make one pile of ones I think I might want to use, and I go through and say, well, gee, I don't think we'll be using any of them. This pile is ones we're not going to use. We're not going to use. And just go through the whole box so that I'll wind up with a pile of ones that I think I might be able to use. Now I see here's some black ones I might want to put up by the yellow. I have some white letters here. I might want to do something with the white. So I'll put those, anything that's not black I'll put in one pile too, just so I have access to them when I want to go on that purple. I also want to try to do, and it'll be an experiment, I haven't done it in many years, I bought some special pens to try to do some silver and gold ink lines, and we'll see how that works out. Anyway, I'll just make the two piles up, ones I use, ones I can't use, so that I can narrow that box down to about half of its volume. Now, I sorted this box out into ones I may use, ones I definitely won't use, little ones, and ones that I'm definitely not going to use. And a pile of decals here. Geez, so many little decals, I can't believe it. Anyway, this will help me sort through and hopefully pick out the ones that I really need without spending an hour looking through 100 sheets here. Get it organized a little bit. Now we have a little glitch in the paint right up in this corner here. So this is a good place for a letroset. We're going to put up, try up some of these gold ones. They look kind of dry, but we'll give them a try anyway. And it's important to put the first coat of clear on dry anyway without a lot of thinner, so maybe we can get away with using these. First thing, lay out some tape and then just work the word right across. Now what I was talking about, pre-releasing, you put a piece of that wax paper that comes with the letrosets and then just burnish it in just a little bit now. You don't want to release it onto the wax paper, just get it started. You can see it's just starting to change color. Now what I try to do is line up the rest of the letters right on the tape. The further out you can line up the letters, the better it'll be. And you should just need the slightest little touch here. You don't want to be putting those old letter dents in there. And what's a good idea to do, believe me, is to find an old plane, get some of that M600 and get it all degreased, and practice. Before you go and do your good plane, practice. And you could just burnish that ever so little with your finger. And again, the only reason we're kind of rushing this is we're trying to fill in time, because we want that black to dry before we have to put the bird's eye in. Try to burnish it with the flat side of the little spoon tool. Really doesn't matter what tool you use. And if you pull it up slow, you see now right here this isn't sticking so good, so we can just press that down by hand. And it doesn't take long and you'll get a little feel for it. Now we're not going to put a lot of letter sets on the bottom, or obviously if you were going to do the bottom too, well, why not do the bottom first and practice? Ooh, we got a nice hair there. Ah, ruined by a hair. Okay, now this is a good thing that happened. When you ruin a letter set, take a little piece of masking tape, lay the masking tape over the old letter set that you want to get rid of, and just pick it right up. That's how you get rid of letter sets that don't really want to stay down. And the whole trick here is to get them on without pressing them so hard. Okay, that's just one example of how to put down a letter set. Now we'll look around. There's certain information. Here's another key. I used to do this years ago. I don't have to do it anymore. Oh, yes I do. I used to write down exactly who I wanted to put on certain things, how I wanted to lay out the nose, different information. And that's a good idea to do if you're not sure what information you want to write. You don't want to start writing the Gettysburg Address out here. And certainly if somebody's helped you with their airplane, in the case Craig Gunder in this case makes a header for me, Midgley makes the pipes, we want to pay homage to these people so that when the big day comes and we win the Nats, they all feel like we paid them back in some way for the effort they put into this program. But looking around now, we're going to try to do the rest of the letter sets, or as many as we can until this paint dries up. And we'll come back to this from time to time and show the progress. Okay, this tape is almost at the end. We only have about a minute left, and we hope you've enjoyed it. And we're going to pick this up on the next tape. Hope you're following the series and hope you're getting a lot out of it. We'll close it out with a few photographs so we get a nice clean end, and hope to see you on the next tape. Here's a very good example of some letter set work, nice neat letter set work. That's another good place to think about putting some letter sets in here. But the idea is you want to keep the center of the plane and the nose busy. This area here busy. You don't want to have too much back here. Busy this center section of the wing up, and busy up the nose. Out at the wingtips not a lot, but this area here can be very busy. This is interesting. Now just what we were talking about is busy up the middle here, and ink lines. A lot of little ink lines around here. Not much or any on the tail, but a lot in here. This is that, by the way, that's a cool plane. This is that 35 powered Nobler Wing Red Baron that the guy made. This is a picture Walt Price in, and this looks like the back of a van that he's painting here. All airbrush. This is all airbrush work. It's really intricate. Just to give you an idea, some of the things you can do. You don't only have to do bird heads and snakes and stuff. There's all kind of cool ideas out there. Speaking of Walt Pray, now this is Walt Pray's. Notice he spelled it, differently than Billy Wurger, but look how nice he worked in the bird's head here. Beautiful job, really beautiful. This is gold leaf lettering. You can't really see it in this picture, and this is all hand painted. Now, it would be nice if I had the talent to do this by hand, but I don't. So I have to resort to things like letter sets. Beautiful job though. If you saw this in real life, you'd really be impressed. Beautiful job. More pictures of Walt Prey doing his thing here with you know, the hand effect and all the hand striping and lettering and everything. Here's a real nice ship. This is a beauty. Nice color. I always like green.